Hi there, welcome back to Stillwater's ASMR and a happy new year to you all. I'm smiling because I've just been joined by a certain little lady who decided that she's gonna steal some cuddle time when I don't have a baby on my lap or cuddled in. So Brusca is making the most of the opportunities available to her. She's purring up a storm. So if I seem a bit distracted, that's why. Yeah, try and sit down and film a video, and if it's not the baby, it's a cat. This is my fluffy cat. She's called Garcibrix, which means hairy trousers in Shetland dialect, because she looks like she's wearing little furry trousers. I do promise that I have some non-baby related videos coming up. I've got a heap of video ideas I would like to do. Time. Apologies. I apologise. Time is a limiting factor in my life at the moment. So, yes, I do have a heap of video ideas that I will get to eventually. I'm really excited to see that I have now hit over 900 subscribers, so thank you so much to all my subscribers. And especially thank you to Miss Vindicat ASMR and Jubilee Whispers, who both gave me some really big boosts this last year in 2020. It's really hugely appreciated when a bigger channel sort of gives a shout out to a smaller channel. It was really appreciated. And in the next few months I'll be celebrating 3 years of my channel. I can't remember if it's February or March time. Apologies. I apologise for the yawning. So yeah, so I'll be celebrating 3 years of my channel shortly. And I'm hoping to get up to 1,000 subscribers by then. I don't know if I'll reach that, but that would be really special. So if you are a regular watcher of my channel but haven't subscribed yet, I'm gonna do a quick request and ask that you subscribe, because that would be really special if I could hit my 1,000 subscribers in time for my third channel anniversary. So today's video I'm gonna do as I got a request in, and I thought about it and I thought, actually, yeah, let's do this. So I had a request for someone to ask, someone asking me to talk about my birth experience. And now this is an ASMR channel, which means I create content that's designed to relax. But thankfully my birth experience isn't anything stressful or traumatic, and I thought actually that's a good opportunity to share how mine went. So you can either watch this as an ASMR video, which will hopefully be kind of relaxing to fall asleep to. Sorry, the cat's really... She's really enjoying getting cross. She doesn't get that much cuddle time anymore now there's a baby around. So I thought actually this should hopefully be a nice relaxing video, or also an informative video. So if you are wanting to hear my birth story for the sake of the birth story, then hopefully that'll be a good video. But also, if you don't actually care about how it went, hopefully it will still be kind of soothing video to fall asleep to. So at the very start, sort of a spoiler, my birth experience, I would class a positive one. So if you are currently pregnant or haven't yet had children and don't want to be put off, this is a safe video for you to watch, because it's not a horror story, there's no unnecessary drama here. It was a very straightforward, a experience. I would say I would do it again, but I don't plan on doing it again. But that isn't because of how it went, that is because, like, personal reasons relating to where me and my husband are at in our lives. We're stopping at one. Or that's the plan anyway. I was surprised. My parents had a boy and a girl and we're like done with the whole children thing, and then I came along, so you know, you can't always say never. But back to the birth experience. So I had, in terms of preparation for the birth, I had done an online, so of course I was pregnant during the whole COVID lockdown situation, so I wasn't able to attend any in-person classes. Sorry, I'm yawning so much. But I had done an online antenatal class and an online hypnobirthing class. Now, I thought hypnobirthing was about using hypnosis, but it's not actually. It's about the power of like positive thinking to help affect like your physical body. So you're using like calming and sort of affirming techniques and things like that to kind of build up your sort of ability to cope with the whole thing. Now, full disclosure, I am terrible for procrastinating. I waited until like literally like days before my baby arrived before I actually fully finished the hypnobirthing course, and I hadn't practiced any of the techniques. I just done the online course, so I hadn't practiced any of the breathing exercises, any of the visualization or like calming exercises at all. I hadn't discussed really them with my husband, who was my birth partner, so there was some prep I could have done before I went into the whole birthing experience, but I understood going into the birth the biology behind it. So I understood that the oxytocin, which is the kind of love hormone and kind of when you feel safe and secure and loved and everything, it helps with the birth process. I knew that cortisol, which is the stress hormone, hinders the labour process, so staying calm and as stress free as possible is preferable, and getting tense isn't. I knew how the muscles work, so the muscles that have been holding the baby in throughout your pregnancy, they then, during your contractions, they pull up round, and then they're the ones that push the baby out, which I found really fascinating because I didn't know this before my pregnancy, but I learned about it before I gave birth. So I understood the biology of how it works, you know, getting the baby out, and I understood about what was I going to say? Where was I? I was talking about the muscles and how they work. Oh, the fact that before you get to, I'm going to be mentioning medical terms here, so if you have a problem with that, that's probably not the video for you. But the cervix has to, before you start getting the dilation, the cervix actually physically moves position. It rotates, so it points in a different direction so the baby can come out, and it shortens before it starts to dilate. So by the time you're dilating, labour's already sort of like started. There's already quite a lot that happens before you start to dilate. So I knew all of this going into labour. My cat's rubbing against the hand that's holding the phone. Video wife. She's just such a happy little bunny. So yeah, so I kind of had a good understanding of biology. I knew that, I mean, I've been involved with lambing, so I know like the natural way of giving birth, that when you watch a sheep giving birth, they get up and move around quite a lot. So just lying still in one place isn't actually natural when you give birth. You want to be able to move around. I know that lying on your back is like the worst position for a woman giving birth because it actually works against gravity, the way everything internally is shaped. So I knew all of this going into labour. So I but that it's easiest for medical professionals. That's why you see women lying on their back giving birth. And I also know that you kind of want to be as little disruption as possible, be able to kind of focus on what you're doing and have kind of calm, peaceful environment. So my birth plan was dim lighting, music playing, calm environment, as minimal disruptions as possible. I had a whole bunch of snacks I was going to take in with me to keep your energy up. And I'm going to do a video in the future of looking at my hospital packing list and discussing what was useful and what didn't even get used. There was some stuff that didn't even come out the bag. And so the plan was a nice calming environment. As it was my first one, I didn't really know which position I wanted to be in, but I knew I wanted to be able to move around. And I was open to using the pool, seeing how that went. I wasn't sure how I'd feel about the pool. And yeah, so it was kind of, and my husband was going to be there throughout. I was planning on doing it as minimal with pain relief as possible and try and use as much hypnobirthing as possible. And my birth plan had me naturally delivering the placenta, because they give you an option where you can, so this is all relevant to the UK, it might be different where you are, what's available, but I was going to naturally deliver the placenta, which takes up to an hour after you give birth, rather than they can give you an injection which makes it happen quicker. But I was like, no, I'll do it naturally, let it all run its course. And I asked them to clean the baby before giving it to me, because I didn't want a slimy thing. So what actually happened? So ironically, the Sunday before my due date, so the day before my due date, it's very rare for a baby to arrive on their due date. So Sunday morning, I went to my cousin's farm to visit with them and go for a walk. Because of all the coronavirus restrictions, I couldn't go into their house to visit with them. So we stayed outside and we went for a walk. And as we're going on this walk, I'm like, for like a few days, about a week or so previous, I've been getting like 1 or 2 contractions a day. It would be like, oh, something's happening here. On this day, we went for this walk and I started getting contractions that were like just gentle little kind of squeezes. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Looks like something might be happening. And so, put it into context, I live on a remote island. I had to come down to the mainland of Shetland and stay with my parents for 2 weeks before my due date, because they didn't want me going into labour while at home on this remote island, because it's like a 20-minute ferry journey which doesn't run overnight. So if I was to go into labour in the middle of the night, they'd have to wake up the ferry crew and, to be able to get me to the hospital, or call out like the air ambulance, a helicopter, if things were progressing too quickly and they had to get me there prompt. So I was staying at my parents' house for 2 weeks previous. For the week before my due date, my husband was coming down every night, just in case, so he wasn't stuck up on the island if I went into labour. He'd been down for the whole weekend before baby arrived, but on Sunday he'd gone back home to like feed animals, so feed the cats and the sheep as well. So he had like responsibilities he had to go do, so he came up home to sort out animals. And here's me, I'm walking about, going for this walk with my cousin, and I'm like, oh, these are contractions that are starting to happen. And I mean, I could carry on a conversation through the contractions, I could carry on walking, I wasn't having to stop. I think they were quite like mild, and I'm like, oh, this isn't too bad. And we went for this walk and we were kind of keeping tabs of how often were they. They were about every 10 minutes. I then went home and they carried on every sort of all day, being consistent, like every 5-10 minutes. but they were still that mild, kind of, you could carry on a conversation, it was fine. And so I messaged my husband to say, I've started having contractions, but like, don't rush, don't rush that down, do what you need to do. We'd had a takeaway the night before, and I was like, we had leftovers for the Sunday, and I was like, you know, we'll be eating a takeaway at home, like leftovers, and yeah, I won't be going in just yet. So he finished what he was doing, he came down, we had our dinner, and then after dinner I was like, I should probably actually start measuring how frequently they are, like properly measuring it. And they were for about 5 minutes at this point. And so I phoned the maternity department, and they were sort of saying, well, you can come in for a check and see where you're at. So I was like, okay. My husband was in the middle of watching an episode of Top Gear, so we were like, well, we'll wait until he's finished watching his episode of Top Gear. We'll come in, but you know, I think it finished at 9 o'clock, so we'll come in after it's finished. So we went into the hospital. One benefit of where I live is I was the only person in the maternity ward the entire time I was in there. Nobody else gave birth, like the day before, the day of, or like the few days after. So it was like fab. I had like all the staff like at my beck and call, like, not that I was letting that go to my head, but they were just really attentive and really lovely, and it was a very different experience. If I'd had to go down to the Scottish mainland and given birth like in Aberdeen, then I would have been on a ward with a whole bunch of other people, and it would have been a very different experience. Up in Shetland you have your own room to yourself with an ensuite toilet, and it's, you know, it's really great facilities, and the team are like so good looking after you. So I went in and they checked me, and I was already 1 centimetre dilated. So the cervix already moved, it already shortened, and I was already 1 centimetre dilated when I went in. And I'm thinking, this isn't so bad, you know, folk make out that labour is really hard, this isn't so bad. They were like, well, you still have a piece to go, so it's not going to happen right just now. So they suggest they gave me the option, I could either stay in and continue being monitored, or they're like, or you can go home and just wait for it to develop a bit further and come back in again when it's progressed a bit further. And so we opted to go home. So we went home. By the time we got home, my contractions had ramped up. So they went from being like, I could carry on a conversation, to I was like crouching down on the floor. Like if I was walking, I would like drop down into a squat and be like, oh. I couldn't just carry on walking. I couldn't carry on having a conversation during them. And they were like properly powerful. And I was like, okay, right, there we go. And they were about every 5 minutes. So we went to bed. I thought, well, I'd try and get a good night's sleep. I could not sleep because I was having this cramping every 5 minutes, and it lasts for between like 30 seconds to a minute. And I'm like, no, I can't sleep through this. So my husband had zonked out fast sleep, and I thought, well, there's no point in both of us getting a rubbish night's sleep. So I got up and went through to the living room, and I was just like having these contractions, and I had an app on my phone that I was tracking my contractions, and it would tell you when you got to active labour, and that's when the contractions last for more than 45 seconds and you're having 3 contractions in the space of 10 minutes. And when that's happening consistently, then it kind of goes, you're in active labour. 2 o'clock in the morning, it was like, you're in active labour, but then it like eased off again. But it was like consistent all night. I didn't get any sleep, and I was getting tired and sore. And so my husband had been thinking, because often you get these false alarms, like false starts of pregnancy, of labour, and it seems like you're about to go into labour and then it kind of peters out. So my husband was fully expecting that to happen with this. We were not expecting baby to arrive on time. We were anticipating it would be a couple couple of weeks late. So he was planning on getting up and going to work, going back up to the island that we live on and going to work the next day. But he set his alarm bright and early for 5:15, and we were just going to review the situation and then most likely go to work. And I think I waited until, I think it was 5 o'clock, when I was like, I've had enough. I've let him sleep for long enough. I went through and I woke him up and I was like, we need to go to the hospital. And like, you're not going to work today. So we got up. By this point I am knackered. I knew I needed food. So I had like half of the amount of breakfast what I would normally have. But I was just feeling sick because like with all those contractions going on, I was feeling really sick. But I knew I needed to eat something. So I ate something, went into the hospital, and it was about, I think, 6 o'clock in the morning by the time we got into the hospital. They checked me again, and we've been joking in the car on the way in, like, see if I'm only like 1 centimetre progressed, I'm gonna be so pissed. I was kind of hoping I'd be like 5 or something. I knew I wasn't fully dilated, like 10 centimetres ready to push, but I was hoping I was at least like 5 or something like that. We got in and they checked me, 2 centimetres dilated. Now, this is where the mental side of labour is so important. I was utterly crushed at finding out I was only like 1 centimetre progressed in the entire night. That's perfectly normal. It's like a perfectly normal progression. And then it kind of ramps up as the day goes on, you know, as the labour progresses. That first bit is the longest bit and then it speeds up after that. But at that point in time, I was just like, I can't do this. They were, you know, knowing that it was going to be, they were like, it might not even be today, it might be tomorrow that baby arrives. And I'm thinking, I can't do this, I can't do it. And I think it was just because I was tired. I just got into my head, I can't do this. So this is where the power of thought is so important. Because I got into my head, I couldn't do it. And like the whole day I was sitting saying, I can't do this to my husband, and he was just going, yes you can, yes you can. And it was like, that was the worst part of the whole labour experience for me, was just the feeling of I can't do this. Sorry, I've got cat hair on my face now. It's like tickling my nose from stroking my fluffy cat. And so that was the worst part of the labour for me, was the I can't do it. I got into my head. And we went into the labour room, and what I'll do is I'll run through what happened, and then I will kind of talk about some of the things that were different to what I expected, or it's like the things that if I could go back and say to myself pre-labour, like useful things to be aware of and to know. Again, this isn't like a horror story. I don't think it is anyway. I'm looking back on it thinking, yeah, it was not bad actually. So we got to the hospital at 6 AM, dropped my stuff off in the room that was going to be mine, and then the labour ward is like the labour room, it's like a different room, and they've got like the birth pool, and they've got a bed and all that kind of stuff, all the facilities for giving birth. Although annoyingly that doesn't have an ensuite toilet, you had to go out of the room to get a toilet, but anyway. I wasn't sure if I'd like going in the pool or not. I wasn't sure if I'd get in the pool and be like, I don't want to be wet right now. But I got in the pool and had a little bikini, put that on, got in the pool. And actually it did help with the sort of the pain control for a wee while. It was helping me to relax, and I got some tunes on, so I put in a bunch of playlists on my iPod before I went in, and I put my labour rock. It was a combination of like punk, metal and rock music. That got put on, and I got in the pool, and that was helping to begin with. But they were struggling to measure my baby's heart rate, so every so often they would like get the little scanner thing that they put on your belly, and they just checked baby's heart rate to make sure the baby was okay. And they were struggling to actually find the baby and the heartbeat while I was in the pool. That was like, not because there was anything wrong with baby, but just because they were struggling with being able to monitor me like that. So they were like, right, get out the pool and into the bed, and then we can monitor you easier. So we did that. Also, I needed to get a drip put in because I tested positive for group B strep while I was pregnant, so I needed to get an antibiotic drip for the baby's sake, because there's a risk of them getting either sepsis or meningitis if you've got group B strep. And I have Crohn's disease, so I was on steroids, and I had to get some IV steroids for my sake. So they wanted to give me some IV medications. They put the IV on, and they put these big bands on my belly to monitor the baby's heart rate. Hated them. Later in the labour, I actually like took them off because I got to this point where I'm like, get it off me. Normally I'm quite a kind of keep my, like, if I'm at the gym, I'm trying to get changed after having had my shower, I'm the kind of person who normally try and keep the towel around myself while I'm getting changed. I'm not just gonna be like stripping off naked in front of people. In labour, didn't care. Got out of the pool, I had just my little bikini on and they were trying to like wrap towels around me, and I'm like, oh, get it off. And at one point I even just took the bikini top off because it was bugging me. And so I was basically like absolutely bare arse naked and just didn't care. You know, medical staff are coming in and out, just don't care. You really don't care about what's happening when you're pregnant, when you're in labour, sorry. I keep saying pregnant when you're in labour. And it's quite liberating actually. You're just like, no, don't care. I'm busy right now. Come back later. And the position I was preferring was like kneeling on my knees and like leaning forwards, like over the, like they'd raise the back of the bed and like leaning over the back of the bed. But that was sorry, I've got a hair tickling my nose. But baby's heart rate kept dropping in that position, so they were like, no, you can't lean forward, that's, you know, baby's not liking that. So I was like calling baby a little poop at this point. So what was working better for me was if I was like more pressing upwards, and so my husband came in really handy because he was standing next to the bed and I was able to hold on to him and push up. So I was on my knees pushing up kind of thing. That was my kind of, I was finding that the most comfortable. But yeah, I did find myself fidgeting around a lot. It just made me think of the sheep when they're in labour and they get up and they spin round, they lie down, get up, spin round, lie down. I was kind of doing almost similar. I was kind of up on my knees and down, up on my knees and down, and there was times of getting out of the bed and like almost like kneeling on the floor because it just seemed more natural. It was kind of hard to explain. Also, when you are in active labour, you cannot really communicate at all. So you're aware of what's going on around you, but when those contractions hit, you are not able to be like communicating with those around you. There'd be times my husband would be like stroking my head or something, I'm like, no. And I couldn't like communicate to him nicely. Like, please don't do that, honey. It was like, no. And at one point a midwife came and put like a cold flannel on my forehead because like, oh, you're really hot, and they put this, and I'm like, get it off. So I was trying to be polite to people around me because I knew it wasn't their fault, but it was just like, get that thing off me. And the bands over my belly were annoying me, so I, like, one point I just took the baby's heart rate monitors off. I'm like, get it off. I was far enough in the labour that they let me, because it was like baby was about to arrive, so they were like, let me just take it off. And I think the kind of bossy midwife wasn't in the room at the time, so I was like, just take it off. And so yeah, it was very much like a don't touch me, let me get on with it. Can you go into kind of feral instinct mode? But yeah, you're not really able to like really communicate with the outside world. So there were some things my husband was doing which were really, really helpful, but I couldn't tell him that they were being really helpful because I couldn't really communicate. So this is where, when they say it's important that your birth partner knows what your wishes are before you go into labour is really important, because they're your advocate when all the doctors are coming in and trying to make decisions. Having somebody who's there who can like advocate for you is useful, because you're probably not going to be able to communicate very well, but you also just don't really care about a lot of things. So like when they were trying to get the IV in, I think, so the midwife tried and failed. The doctor came in, so in the UK, the kind of hospital I was in, it's midwife driven team. So typically it's the midwives who oversee your care. The doctors only get involved if they're concerned about something, if there's any kind of complication. So the midwife tried, failed to get the IV in. The doctor turned up, failed to get the IV in, and then they had to get somebody up from A&E, like ER, to come up and put the IV in. I didn't care. I was like, I had other things on my mind. I really couldn't have cared less. And I'm not a big fan of needles, so I just didn't care. I was like, just get on with it, like, do what you need to do. So yeah, you just don't care. So after so long, because I'd been so disappointed at when they had to check me at 6 a.m, said, right, we're not going to check you, like we're only going to check you at 4-hour intervals, because they were like, we're not going to keep checking you to be telling you that you're not progressing, because then you're just going to be more discouraged and you won't progress. So for a pregnancy to progress, for a labour, to progress, you have to be calm and relaxed and all that kind of stuff, and getting stressed out about a lack of progression can hinder progression. So they're like, we're not going to check you until 4 hours. So I think when they checked me again, I think it was about, I want to say it was almost more like 12 or 1 o'clock they checked me again. I don't know, to be honest, time kind of went out the window. But when they checked me again, I was then at 5 centimetres dilated, so that was nice. And I think I might have been fully dilated before the next check came, but they were sticking to their, we're only going to check you at 4-hour intervals. So when they checked me the next time, I was fully dilated, and they're like, right, you can push. And so went into the sort of active pushing stage. I'll come back to talking a bit about that. But in reality, it went smoothly. Baby had arrived by, I think it was sort of 5:25 in the evening, and on her due date. So she arrived safely. When she did arrive, she came out and they handed her straight up to me without giving her a wipe down, and I didn't care at this point. I'm like, give me my baby. So everybody, when I've been saying I want you to clean my baby before giving it to me, everyone had kept saying, in the moment, on the day, you won't care. And I kept going, ew, no, I don't want a slimy baby. You don't care. I was like, give me my baby. So I cuddled her, all slimy and everything. My first words out of my mouth when I met my baby was, oh my gosh, you're ugly. Because she was all like angry and wrinkled and squished and looking, yeah, funny colour, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you're ugly. Thankfully she's the cutest baby in the world now. But when she first arrived, my gosh, I was like, whoa. And then she got passed over to my husband. Well, she stayed with me for like so many minutes, and before they clipped the cord, because they let the blood transfer from the cord back into the baby before they cut the cord, because then baby has more blood. So baby cuddled with me for like 5 minutes or so, and then cut the cord. Baby went to my husband, and they were like, so do you want to deliver the placenta naturally as per your birth plan? And I'm like, no, I'm done. I want to be finished with this already. I was tired, I was fed up. I'm like, I'm done with this already. Just give me the injection, let's get it over with. So I delivered the placenta, which is a weird sensation. And then the surgeon came in, because I had torn a little bit. So you get 4 degrees of tearing. 1 and 2 are, I think 1 is like really hardly anything. 2 is easy to stitch up, heals well, there's no like serious damage. 3 and 4 when you get into the more serious issues. So I had a 2nd degree tear, so it was like enough that I needed stitches, but honestly, like, so I was oh, so go back a step. So epidurals weren't an option for me up here in Shetland. I didn't really want morphine because that makes the baby groggy and can affect breastfeeding once the baby arrives. So I kind of drawn the line for myself at gas and air, and thankfully I was able to do it with just gas and air. I think I might have gotten like a painkiller injection after she'd arrived, but I don't think it was before she'd arrived. Now I'm wondering, I'm like, because I seem to remember getting an injection, but I think that was after she, oh no, that was the injection to make the placenta arrive quicker. Anywho, so I got, okay, so this video is going on a bit longer than I anticipated, and I had to, my phone ran out of storage, so I've had to kind of take the video off and start again. So I was just saying about how there's limited pain options for me available, and I kind of wanted to stop at gas and air if possible. There's a cat hair floating about. And I was able to do it with just gas and air. When I was in the pool, that was working well. When I got out the pool, I was just finding that the contractions were just too much. And also because I got into my head that I couldn't do it, I was like, it was more a mental issue for me than physical. And the gas and air really helped me to just chill out and to relax and to cope a bit better. It's like getting absolutely pissed, but you don't get a hangover, and you have like that drunk feeling only as long as you're sucking the gas and air. As soon as you stop sucking the gas and air, it fades away. So it's not like, if I had to try and concentrate on something somebody was saying to me, I could stop with the gas and air and actually be aware of what someone was saying to me. But when I was on full gas and air, then I really wasn't aware of what was happening around me. And apparently I was speaking pish as well. My husband was like, yeah, you were speaking nonsense. And I was like, I don't really care. So after I'd given birth, the contractions had stopped. I'd stopped taking the gas and air. And so I was kind of coherent enough to be able to follow what was happening. And I was listening while the surgeon was discussing sewing me back up again with the midwife. And it was actually really great to hear it, because he was sort of saying how, oh, baby's waking up and making dinosaur noises. Because he was saying how, like, it was the ideal tear, it was going to heal nicely, he was, no damage done, really, and it was like, it was nice to hear, especially when he was kind of like, everything's intact, it should be intact, and stitched it back up again, and I was like, yeah, this should heal up, no problem. It was kind of like, oh, that's good, because that was the big thing I was the most scared of, was tearing. And yeah, I tore, but it healed up, like, it was an easy fix. So that was, also while they did that, then my husband was getting some really quality cuddle time with the baby while I was getting put back together again. And yeah, so while I delivered the placenta and was put back together again, my husband got good quality time, cuddle time with the baby. We then moved through to my own private room, where I was able to have what they refer to as a golden hour, where I was able to cuddle skin to skin with the baby and like work on breastfeeding. So when my baby arrived, she was 8 pounds 6.5 ounces, which is a decent size. It's interesting because up here in Shetland, the average baby weight size is between 8 and 10 pounds. Down on the Scottish mainland in places like Glasgow, the average baby weight is between 5 and 6 pounds, which is a huge difference. And they reckon a lot of it's down to like quality of life, quality of diets, exercise, and that kind of thing that the parents are getting. So decent sized baby, not massive, but decent size. So she, I mean, they did all the health checks and then she was all fine, and we went through to back to my room and had the kind of quality 101 time, able to feed her and all that kind of stuff. I was then allowed to, so because she was born at like, what was that? Sort of, let's say 5:30 in the evening. So we were to stay in for a day afterwards because of the whole strep B risk and the risk of infection for the baby. So just while they supervised and made sure that she was doing fine, we stayed in for an extra day. Then because that would then be like 5:30 in the evening the next day, on the Tuesday, they gave me the option to stay in for another night if I wanted to. Like, I could have stayed in for as long as I wanted. It was like, you have your own room, stay in as long as you need. They had plenty of rooms. It was, even if somebody else went into labour on the island, even if multiple people went into labour on the island, there was space. So they were like, you can stay in for as long as you need. A member of staff showed me how to give a baby a bath, because I had no idea. I've never had a baby before. I've not really had much exposure because I was the youngest, so I didn't have a younger sibling to see how my parents dealt with all that stuff. And then I moved away and was living down near London, and when all my friends had babies, I was at the other end of the country, so I missed out on like changing nappies, how to give babies a bath and all that stuff. So the staff showed me how to change a nappy, they showed me how to give baby a bath, they helped me out with the breastfeeding, all that kind of stuff. In the end, what we ended up doing is I'd been expressing colostrum before we went in, because of my Crohn's, just in case anything went wrong with me. I'd been expressing colostrums that baby would have, like something. So in the end, I've just carried on expressing and feeding her expressed milk. Even now, sort of 10 weeks later, she's still getting expressed milk most of the time. She just get the occasional boob feed, but typically it's expressed milk. That's just what's worked for us. Sorry, the radiator made the bled, so there's like gurgly noises as the air in the radiators. So yeah, it was really lovely, and because I had my own room, my husband was able to come and go and visit me, whereas like nobody else was allowed to come into the hospital because of like COVID, so there's no other visitors. And then after she arrived, then we went home. But after the couple of days in the hospital, we went home. But so in terms of the birth, for things I wish I'd known, so the biggest one for me was I got it into my head that I couldn't do it because I'd been pushing all night. No, I hadn't been pushing all night. I'd been having contractions all night, and then I was like, I can't deal with this for like another day or so, but I could. It's literally what the female body is designed to do. I was able to do it, and I did do it. Oh, one important thing tied in with that. If I had given up and gone, I just want a C-section and just cut the baby out, I would have had a 6-week recovery time. You can't lift a kettle, you can't drive, you can't, like, it's so restrictive of what you can and can't do. And I know people who've like ignored the rules and ended up like splitting their stitches open and like horrible stuff like that. So you really can't lift anything. So okay, I had some tearing, I got stitches. That was healed up within like a week or two. I sat on a donut cushion for a wee while afterwards, but really it was healed up within like a week or two. And she was born on the Monday. We went home on the Wednesday. On the Thursday, I went out for a walk, pushing her in the pram, like all around the neighbourhood that we live in. Like, it's kind of quite a rural neighbourhood, but like up the road, like there's no way I would be able to push a pram up the hill sort of 3 days after giving birth if I'd had a C-section. I was like, the next day I was out carrying big heavy baskets of laundry out to hang out on the washing line. Again, I couldn't have done that if I'd had a C-section. So the entire way through my recovery, I was so grateful that I'd stuck with it and done the natural birth. I had it in my head that I couldn't do it, and it was just because I was tired, and I just got it stuck in my head. So that's why the power of positive thinking is so important. And I hadn't been practicing the affirmations, I hadn't been practicing the breathing exercises, I hadn't been practicing these positive thinking things with hypnobirthing. If there was one thing I could have changed and gone back and done it differently, so I would have done my hypnobirthing class a lot earlier. I kept postponing and kept procrastinating. I only completed it like days before she arrived. I would have had that completed months previous, and I would have been practicing the positive affirmations, I would have been practicing the breathing exercises, so when I got tired I would have been fighting those I can't do this thoughts rather than getting into them. And because I did do it, I was able to do it, and I did do it. And yeah, that was the biggest negative of my whole experience, was that it got into my head I couldn't do it, and that made it a horrendous experience mentally. But actually physically, yeah, the contractions are tough. So they're every 5 or 3 minutes, and they take your breath away, and they're just non-stop. Like, once you get into active labour, you're like, can we just stop for half an hour, let me have a nap, let me have something to eat, have a little rest? And it's like, that was the baby, not me. I just like to say that. Baby's woken up and is starting to make noise, including farting. That was not me. I don't know if the mic picked that up, but that was the baby. But you don't get a break, and that is the hardest, like the mental battle. But it's what your body's designed to do. It's whether you believe in evolution or creative design, literally it's what our bodies are made to do. It's a natural process. Hang on 1 second. I know we're good. I thought I heard barfy noises, but we're good. This is gonna get interrupted with baby grunting noises for the rest of the video, I think. She's a little poop. I love her to bits, but I refer to her as my little poop. So yeah, that's probably the one. If I could go back and change one thing, is I would have been doing more prep beforehand with the mental stuff. Because it is hard work, but it's doable. And the cats are making noise too. Try and film a video and just be like guinea pigs. Got a different cat here come to say hello. So yeah, there's that. There's the whole mental side of things. The second one was that, so when it came time to actively pushing, it took me a while to get to actively pushing, because the midwife was like, right, you need to push now. And I'm like, I am pushing. She's like, no, you're not. Yes, I am. And there was this, it took a while, because I've never given birth before, and I didn't know which muscles were supposed to be getting used and how to do it, and I thought I was squeezing the right muscles, but it turns out, I think because I was scared of tearing, I think I was actually like holding in and then just squeeze my belly, which wasn't doing anything other than making baby's heart rate spike, because I didn't know what I was doing. And then my body sort of took over, and I had like this involuntary spasm, and the midwife was like, yes, that is what we're trying to do, we need more of that. And I was like, but that wasn't intentional, that was like my body doing an involuntary spasm, I don't know how to do that. So it took me a little while to figure out how to do that intentionally, and like which muscles I needed to be squeezing. And once I'd figured out what I was meant to be squeezing and how, it went so much easier. And that's like that's probably similar for most first time mums. If you don't, it's a very weird, you basically feel like you're trying to force it at the poop, and you don't think you should be doing that while you're giving birth, because that doesn't feel like it should be right, because you don't want to poop while you're giving birth, but actually it's those same muscles that you're using. So it's a bit very bizarre, and so she probably could have arrived like a good hour earlier if I'd figured out how to push properly. But the important thing is she was fine, she arrived safely, and you know, it all worked out. So me figuring it out was fine. It was part of the process. So, but my biggest takeaway from that, so first one is mental, don't underestimate. Second takeaway, your body, even though I had no idea what I was doing, my body did. So once I had stopped like holding in and squeezing the wrong muscles, and my body sort of took over and just spasmed, my body knew exactly what it needed to do. So even if you don't know what you're doing, even if you're scared, your body knows what it needs to do and how to do it. Trust your body. That's my number 2. That's my message number 2. Trust your body. It knows what it's doing. It's a perfectly natural process. It's one people have been doing for forever. Just trust it. I seem to think there was something else I was going to say. Oh, tip number 3. I wasn't quiet in labour. During the contractions, I would be like properly roaring, to the point where my husband, not exaggerating, genuinely being honest, wished he'd packed ear defenders because it was hurting his ears. I was roaring that loudly. That's where the layout of the maternity ward, very poor design, like the front doors and then the labour rooms are like off the corridor there. So anybody coming for like a scan or appointment that day would have heard me roaring away, and I'm like, I am so sorry. Because it would have sounded a lot worse than it was. It's like involuntary animal type reaction. Not every woman is like that, but I was loud. Which is fine for the contractions, like while you're dilating, and once you get to the active pushing stage, you need to push, not roar. And if you're putting energy into roaring, you're not putting the energy into pushing. So you're wasting your breath making noise rather than using that breath to push. So there was 2 things that my husband was really brilliant at when it came to the birth. Well, actually 3 things. One was me holding on to him when I was like pushing myself upright as like a stabilising force. That was one. And number 2 was that in the active labour, when the midwife had said, stop making noise, push the baby out. It was fine making noise up till then, but when you get to the business of actually pushing the baby out, focus on pushing baby out, don't be making noise. And my husband was sitting there like coaching me on that. Basically he'd heard the midwife say it, and so he was like repeating the message to me. My baby's now filling her nappy, which is just great on a video, so I apologise for any sound effects in the background. I'm going to finish this up though, because I've been wanting to do this video for ages, so I'm finishing it up first. And then I'll go change a nappy. So when you're pushing, push, don't make noise. Well, you can make some, but put your effort into the pushing. And yeah, my husband was like, he'd heard the midwife saying it, so he was like repeating it to me, which was really actually very helpful. In that moment, I couldn't communicate anything, so I wasn't able to tell him that's helpful, keep doing that. But him reminding me, it was helping me to focus on what I needed to do, which was really helpful. The third thing he did, which was really helpful, I kept tensing up. So when you go into your contractions, the more you tense up, the more they hurt. The more relaxed you stay, the less they hurt. So if you have, that's where like the visualizations and the hypnobirthing really comes in to its own. And again, I wish I'd practiced it more. The more so I was like, for example, I had my music on, focusing on my music. This is where people talking to you can be really distracting. You're like, just stop talking, I'm trying to focus. Focusing on the music and focusing on relaxing made the contractions so much easier to handle. The more tired I got, the less I was able to focus, and then the contractions would take over. And then once that clenching starts, and if you start clenching with it, it's a lot worse. So the midwife had said to me, oh, my shoulders were coming up and I'm tensing. She's like, drop your shoulders, relax. And my husband had heard that, and he kept coaching me on that. So when I start tensing up, he kept, and again, I wasn't able in that moment to tell him how valuable, useful that was, because him sitting coaching me on that while I'm in labour was actually really helpful, because it was reminding me every contraction, relax, relax. And I really needed that to help me to take my mind to relax. I need to drop my shoulders, I need to focus on my breathing, I need to relax. And so that's like top tips, is relax and have something like music was really helpful for me because I could focus on it. But even if it's like the ticking of a clock or something you can focus on and just zone everything else out and just reach that almost like zen state of being able to relax. And that's what the hypnobirthing is all about, and I cannot recommend it more. That I wish I'd put the work in practicing that more beforehand, but I didn't really know what I was getting into. And so yeah, my husband was really, really helpful throughout the labour, just sitting there being a calming influence and being like, calm, relax, and everything. So yeah, so in terms of things I wish I'd known, also the whole issue of tearing. So I was terrified of tearing. It was the one thing I was worried about even before I got pregnant, and because I've had issues, we're not going to go into them, and it was the one thing I was terrified of before I even got pregnant. And all through the pregnancy, that was my one concern about the whole process. And I was tempted to even ask for a episiotomy. It's where they cut you basically to limit the tearings. They kind of a controlled tear. But the surgeon, so after all was said and done, I didn't get a episiotomy, and the surgeon said this is actually, the tearing I got was better than if I'd had an episiotomy in terms of like healing and recovery time. He was like, this was the best option for you. And in the moment when I tore, at that point I was moments away from meeting my daughter. So I didn't know what I was having at that point, obviously, but all throughout the labour up to that point, I had been thinking, oh gosh, this is going to take forever and I can't do this. When I got to that final moment, I'm like, when they said you're literally a few pushes away from meeting your child, I'm like, I can do this. And I'm like, so I pushed that baby out to the point where she came like flying out, and they were like, oh, that was a bit quicker than we expected. And so when it got to that point of tearing, I just powered on straight through it. I was like, I am ready to meet my daughter, or my child. And in that moment, you don't even really feel it that much. You don't really care. You're kind of just happy to have it over with. So don't worry about the tearing as much, because in the moment it's really not that bad. It was the one thing I was the most scared of, and it really wasn't that bad. So the healing was way better than having a C-section. I said I was healed up in like, it was like completely healed up. I was able to go have a bath within a couple of weeks. But as well, I was able to get, like, right from the get-go, I was able to get up and go move about. I was able to go for walks and all the rest of it, and carry laundry and get on with my life. I wasn't having to sit around recovering after giving birth in the same way as you would if you had a C-section. So I'm so grateful I went ahead with the natural birth and the whole process. So trust your body, it knows what it's doing. Relax. Positive thinking, you can do it. Push, don't roar. Like tearing really isn't that bad. It's hard, I'm not gonna lie, it's hard. It is a hard workout. It's physically demanding. I was like physically shaking by the time it was finished. The only other time in my life I have had that kind of a physical response was when I ran a half marathon and I pushed myself too hard And when I finished the race, my body kind of went into shock and I was physically shaking and I had to get wrapped in a foil blanket and fed a burger. It's difficult because the contractions, I was feeling sick, and so I wasn't really able to eat anything. I had a whole bunch of snacks, but I couldn't really face eating anything. I think I had like half of a sandwich. I had like one bit of Weetabix in the morning, I had like half of a sandwich, and then like after giving birth, somebody bought me a box of Maltesers, and after giving birth, I'm sitting there like munching these while I'm waiting for them to stitch me back up again. I was so happy. Lucozade, as I drank like sports drink, you know, your kind of energy drinks, I was drinking those throughout, and that was really getting me through. And cartons of apple juice, so sugary like energy drinks are actually really helpful. Easy things to eat like jelly babies, that kind of thing, because you need to keep your energy up, but you're really not able to sit down and eat a 3-course meal while you're in labour. So but yeah, it is a marathon. It is like a big undertaking. It's physically demanding. Yes, it is painful, it is tiring, but it's doable. And the more relaxed you stay and the more calm you stay, the better it goes. And you know, it is doable. It's a natural process. So it's like, don't be scared of it. It's nothing to be scared of. I'm trying to think, was anything else? But yeah, I would still always advocate natural childbirth over C-sections. Instead, for like the weeks after I gave birth, I was just like so grateful that I'd done it. I'd pushed on through and given birth naturally, because I couldn't get over how much I was able to do after giving birth. I used to always marvel at the sheep who give birth and then get up and toddle off across the field. I'd be like, how do they do that? But actually, I mean, yes, I did have a couple of days in hospital just to chill out and focus on being with baby, but once I got home, I was able to go for walks and like carry heavy loads of laundry and get on with stuff just like normal. I was being a bit careful when I sat down, but other than that, it was like fine, and I really couldn't believe it. It was like really quite incredible. So yeah, positive. And obviously everybody's birth experience is different. Every female body is different, every baby is different, but my biggest thing is trust the process. It's, you know, we've got amazing medicine nowadays. The human body is an incredible thing. Just trust your body, trust the process. And yeah, that's kind of my birth story. I'm just trying to think of anything else I haven't mentioned. Not really. I think that's kind of all the big main key takeaways. Yeah. But yeah, it's immediately after giving birth, I was like, oh my goodness, I never want to do that again. But the more I've sat with hindsight, I'm like, wow, that actually went really smoothly. And like, I really couldn't have asked for it to go better. So the only thing I'd do differently would be to practice the hypnobirthing beforehand, and so that I could have stayed more focused and more relaxed during the birth. But other than that, like, I'm really happy with how it went. I'm really happy with you know, baby arriving and smoothly, and I got patched back up again nicely, and you know, I've healed well. And oh, do your pelvic floor exercises before and after. But I've not been peeing myself or anything like that. I mean, you hear it's so commonplace that they refer to a woman sneezing and peeing themselves like it's like perfectly normal, but it doesn't have to be. Do your pelvic floor exercises. You don't have to wear tenor, ladies. But other than that, if you are pregnant, congratulations. If you're thinking about becoming pregnant, don't let the labour put you off. It's really not. that bad. And if you're like a bloke who's watching this just to relax, then be grateful you don't have to. You know, if you're watching this and have no intention of giving birth or have already done it and you're more just watching it for the ASMR, I hope it's been a kind of relaxing video. I'm not sure how soothing I have been. I might be talking too fast or something, I don't know, but I hope as far as ASMR video, I hope it's been okay. But I'm gonna go now and change the nappy and apologies, maybe have a nap. It's I actually got plenty of sleep last night, which is the worst, so I don't know why I'm yawning so much today. But yeah, take care and I'll see you again in a video soon, and I promise. So I do have more baby videos I want to do. I'm going to do a video about the hospital kit I packed. I'm going to do a video about like essential baby items that you need to get and ones you really don't. Which I think is any other baby videos I was going to do. Oh, and I was going to do a video looking at like baby clothes, like what you actually need. But I also have a heap of non-baby related videos I'd like to do. Going through some Quality Street chocolate box. Maybe a bullet journal update. I need to do another clothing declutter because now that I'm out my maternity stuff, I need to sort my clothes out. So another clothing declutter. I have a horse related one I was going to do. So I've got a bunch of different videos under my belt, and it'll be no time at all before I need to get back into my studying again. So I'll have more studying videos and that'll probably be here way quicker than I anticipate. So yes, if you're still here and you've not either fallen asleep or tuned out, then there is more content coming. But anyway, take care and I will see you again in a video sometime soon.